Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, Taslim.
We are so excited today because we have a special honored guest.
She's amazing.
Amazing.
Aww. Thanks so much for having me. I'm actually really excited to be here because I watch your videos and you guys always look like you're having so much fun.
We are.
Yeah, I mean, you share great content, but you're also like laughing.
Yes, we love to laugh.
So we last time we forgot to tell who we are and stuff, right? So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So maybe you could start and then we'll tell everyone else who we are.
Okay, well, I'm Taslim and I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. I'm a writer, I'm a social change ambassador, and I am a friend to these lovely ladies.
And I'm Jenna Marcy. I'm a couples therapist and a happiness coach.
And I'm Dr. Syra, and I'm a transpersonal psychotherapist, and I'm part of the Get Happy Club.
Yes.
Which we just started like 5 minutes
Get
ago.
Happy Club.
So we'll tell you about that later.
Yes. So we really wanted to have Taslim on this show because she is living her dream. And when I met Taslim, she was in a completely different profession, and over the last few years, she's transformed her entire life. So we want to hear all about how she did it.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's all yours. We're going to ask you like questions like fire style.
Okay. All right.
So your life was very different. What would you say, about 6 years ago, 8 years ago?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 years ago.
What was your life like back then?
Right now I have 3 children, then I had 2 children. I had a preschooler and a toddler. I spent my days at home kind of chasing after them and doing everything that they needed me to do. And my evenings I spent as a speech therapist. And I worked with children who had like developmental disabilities, autism, some really challenging situations. And I kind of came to a point of burnout and a realization that I was not doing what I wanted to be doing, and I wasn't being who I actually am, which was a pretty huge discovery.
Yeah. So did you have a vision for your future, for what you really wanted out of your life?
You know, I'd have to say that my life it felt so bleak to me at that point that I really couldn't imagine. Like, I could never imagine that I would be a writer. Like, people would pay me to write things. Like, I couldn't imagine that. So I didn't really have a vision at that time. I just knew that what was kind of happening and what was in my life wasn't right. Because of how I was feeling.
Yeah. So then how did you take those first steps to kind of venture out of your comfort zone of what you've been doing all those years?
Well, I did it slowly, and I did it kind of unintentionally. I think it was really the universe's intervention because I used to write. Like, I have journaled since I was 10. I used to write short stories and poems all through high school. I had teachers telling me to pursue a career in writing, and I would kind of like laugh because I come from an immigrant family, and that was not steady, and that's not a job. That's not a job. It's a hobby, which you don't have time for. So I just, I did what I thought I should do, and I thought at the time I was making the right decision because I love language and I love helping people. But then after I had my first daughter, and she was about 1.5 years, I would say I lived under a very dark cloud. And it was like my husband would come home from work and find me in almost the same spot on the floor, and my 10-month-old baby would be like crawling in and out of my lap, and I would just have this I was just really under a dark cloud. A lot of other things were going on. My mom was terminally ill at that time. I was obviously having postpartum issues that were undiagnosed. But I also had this huge sense that I was missing somebody. Not a thing, but an actual person. And so in those moments when I would be like breastfeeding or sitting quietly, I would like literally in my head be screaming, "Who are you? Like, who am I missing?" And one day I was breastfeeding and I was asking that question, and another question popped up inside me, and it was, "When was the last time you journaled?" And I was like, "Who said that?" But it was such an important question because I realized it had been like since before she was born that I actually journaled. So after she fell asleep, I put her in her crib and I went and dug out my journal. and I opened up to a new page and I grabbed a pen, and the moment that pen hit the paper, I realized that the person I had been missing was actually me. So that was profound. I started journaling again, and almost at the same time I reconnected with a high school friend via Facebook, and she is someone who we used to write together. In high school we used to share poems with each other, and on Facebook I saw she became a writer. I was like, what? That is a job, holy, right? So I got in touch with her, and she came over. I hadn't seen her in like 10 years. She came over, and I was basically told her where I was at and how I hadn't been writing, and I said, like, I'm like jealous of you. Like, you actually did it. And she was kind of like, she's very like matter of fact, and she's like, you know what, you can do it too, and you need to read this book. And she recommended The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
Right.
And that was instrumental in my artistic recovery. It just reminded me that I do have a passion for writing. I do have a creative side. And so I just, while, she was growing up, I would just write, like, for fun. And then after my mom passed away, I actually went to see a medical intuitive. So that's someone who can feel the vibrations of your body and tell you what's going on with your organs. Because I was also having these physical symptoms that doctors could not diagnose, where I was feeling nauseous. I was losing weight. Like, I couldn't keep weight on, and but nobody could figure out why. And she told me right away, she's like, you're an artist and you're blocked. And I was like, yeah, I think enough people are telling me this that I should do something about it.
Right.
So I hooked up with a group of writers that I found via the internet, and started volunteering with a nonprofit group that promotes the literary arts, and I started doing fundraising. And even when my son was born, my next child, I made sure during that postpartum time that I kept busy doing those things, and I had a much easier time. I felt like I had more purpose in my life. And then I started a blog, and then things really took off, because then I started partnering with brands, and it was a way to make money as well as a creative outlet.
And your blog is so incredible.
Thank you.
Like, we were actually at a dinner party the other day, and we were talking about my blog or something, and someone's like, but have you heard Taslim Jaffer? I was like, actually, yes, I have read her blog. It's like, it's so inspiring. And when you like don't write for a little while, I'm like, what's happening? I'm not getting my
that's so nice to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, my blog is called Let Me Out for a reason. It was because I needed to not just get out of the house, which I did need to do, because I had a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old when I started it. But it was let me out, that creative, authentic part of me that was just like buried. And the purpose was actually to help other people find their creative self and release that creative self, but really it did a lot more for me, I think.
So if today is your day to get creative, what advice would you give people who are kind of in that similar space where they're kind of going along their regular life and it's kind of bleak and it's kind of maybe a bit boring or colorless? How would you encourage them to let me out? How would you encourage them to get creative?
So to take the first step, which can be a small step, and that is to remember who you are when you're not a parent, when you're not a spouse, when you're not a friend or a sister or brother, whatever. And to do that, really, you just need a little bit of quiet space. For me, unintentionally, that quiet space was when I was breastfeeding, because I was stuck in a chair and I had to do nothing, which was like so frustrating. And then it became amazing because it was that opportunity for me to sit in quiet. And once all those thoughts kind of quieted down inside of my head, there was these moments when ideas would come to me and remind me, kind of like little it was like a little flag saying, go in this direction, go in that direction. Like, remember, like, pick up your pen, journal, write a story. Here's a character. She's, and I would see this character in my head, and I would just write for fun. And it was like 15 minutes, right? Because I think the biggest challenge and what people always ask me is, how do you find the time, right? So it's not about finding the time. It's really about making the time. And that will look different, like, even month to month, because life changes month to month sometimes, right? Like, when I first started doing this, I had babies. And now my youngest is 3, and I have 2 children who are in school full-time, so my life has changed. So the time that I spend is different. The amount of time is different, and where I make that time is different, too. So the first step is to really spend some time alone with yourself, because that's where those ideas come from.
Yeah. And what I love is that you didn't just set a goal and then start working on it. You gave yourself permission to just see what happens and to take a really small step at a time, right? Because some of us can get so overwhelmed when we have these big goals and
I'm going to be a writer.
Yeah, and we think that we need to make it happen. Like, I need to do this right now,
right.
And I need to work, 25 hours a day, right? But you just took it one small step at a time and said, I'm going to listen to my inspiration. I'm just going to quiet my mind and see what happens.
Yeah. And goals are appropriate in certain places, right? Like, if you have a business, you need goals, and you might even have goals around parenting or things like that. But creativity is like, it's this funny thing, because it's like everywhere, and it's especially inside you, and it's this huge, like, limitless pool of potential. So you don't have to do a lot to really be in it, right? It's like, you can say, okay, I want to be a writer. Well, to be a writer, you have to write. And if you write for 10 minutes...
the basics,
I know.
Right?
If you write for 10 minutes, like, awesome. Today, in this moment, you're a writer. Right? And that's really what it is. It's changing our perception. We're so, as a society, I think we're so bent on dollar figures and, like, return on investments and things like that. With creativity, when you tap into it, oh man, it's like limitless, right? It's like you don't know where it's going to lead you. You can come up with an idea for social change. You can come up with an idea for a friend who's just diagnosed with cancer and needs meals fed to her family. Creativity is really just, it's having solutions at your disposal. So really your job is to just tap into it, and it could be just by sitting quietly, it could be journaling, being open.
Taslim, one of your blog posts you wrote about the relationship between creativity and the soul. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that they are basically interchangeable, where it's creativity and spirituality. Because the ways we tap into our creativity is actually the ways we tap into our soul, which is spiritual talk for, like, yourself, your authentic self. So when I talk about creative self, I'm talking about the soul. Because tapping into creativity, how do we do that? We sit in quiet. Well, in spiritual terms, that could be called meditation. Another way to tap into it is to go for a walk in nature. Well, that's another way that our soul is connecting with the souls of other living beings. So really, for me, they're interchangeable. I believe creativity is a spiritual practice. And
so you're telling me I can, like, get my paints out and, like, it's like as if I'm going to my place of worship.
Absolutely.
It feels that way sometimes, right? Like, when you're done, and what I've noticed is, like, there's certain creative things that I'm good at, that there's a nice product, like, for example, writing. There's other things I'm not good at, like painting. Yeah. Like, I don't know what I just painted. But the process is exciting. The process makes me feel good more sometimes even than the outcome.
Right.
Is that a normal thing?
Yes, we all have varying degrees of talent, right? And that's a totally different topic.
Talent is different from creativity.
Yeah.
Everybody can be creative.
Exactly. Yeah.
Everybody has talent, but it's just in different ways.
It's kind of like dancing, right? Like, everybody can dance. Yeah. Not everybody's necessarily, like, a star or going to be on, like, a music video. I look at my children, and that's quite apparent, right? But there are people who have the talent for something, but all of us have that impulse to create.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And so what about, my husband and I were talking, and he's working with these other guys, and they're all talking about their creativity. So one of them is part of this like acting guild, and they do some acting, and the other one loves to dance. And my husband was trying to figure out like what he does that's creative, and I was like, for once I didn't have any words for him. That never happens.
You must have been like, I should ask more questions like that.
Yeah, because he wakes up in the morning, he goes to work all day, he's at work all day, he comes home, he's working, and then he goes to sleep, and he only does anything outside of that when I force him to like attend a family dinner or go to the movie or something that I've kind of done to have him spend time with us. But he doesn't have an outlet.
So I wonder what he would do if he had 10 or 15 minutes of space that he just couldn't be doing any of those other things.
Well, he would be on his phone.
Well, what if he took his phone away from him? I wonder what
he would be having a nap. Well, that's part of it, right? Like when you're exhausted and your life is so full of stuff, how do you so then what? What about people like that who are just like, they don't feel like I can, like he's upstairs, maybe we should calm down. Get him to speak for himself. But that's something that I was stunned. I didn't know how to answer his question, because really like I cannot see any place in his life where he's creative.
But I used to be the same way. And then I started to think, what did I used to do as a kid that I really enjoyed? And I remembered that I loved to draw, and I loved to write poems, and I loved to create potions. Potions all the time. Like I was a witch.
Potions. That's so weird.
It's so
like,
weird.
There's like all these little jars of these like gross material.
And then I realized that I've actually been journaling for about 10 years, but it didn't occur to me that that's a creative process. It's just something that I did. Right?
Yeah. You made a really good point, Jenna, that I just want to talk about. One of the things that people ask me, I don't know what's fun for me. I don't know what my soul, would appreciate or be happy if I indulged in. I say, well, what did you do when you were a child, when you were left to your own devices and you had like the whole afternoon? What would you do? And then, that's like the first thing I ask them, because that's, when you're a child, you're super authentic, right? Sometimes to the chagrin of your parents, you're like, you just say what's on your mind, you say what you want, you ask for what you want, you do what you want.
Right.
And so we do have to go back to our childhood sometimes to remember those things. I also want to say that creativity is not necessarily fine arts related. Creativity to me is just tapping into that limitless pool. So Faison comes up with like solutions at work all the time, right? They're maybe more technical, but he's got to navigate certain situations. I mean, we all do. If there's a traffic jam or something on our way to work, we have to think, okay, what's another solution? And that's using creativity too. Like, we would basically not be able to like walk out of our house without being creative, right? You have to figure out what you're going to wear based on a certain situation. So we are creative, whether we think we are or not.
And figure out how to deal with your wife.
And your kid. Oh my God, he's got to be so creative for that. How do I navigate?
Yeah. How do I navigate Syra? What do I do?
I'm totally going to tell you. I'm going to make him watch this episode.
But an outlet is super important. So I think that's something I would encourage, is the 15 minutes of just shutting things off. And it's different things for different people. For me, it was TV. I had to turn the TV off. So now I don't watch any TV. Once a week I watch a movie. But that's about it. And that's fine for me. It limits some of my conversations with people, because I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, when they ask me if I watch like House of Cards or I don't know, something like that. Yeah. So then I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. But I read a great book.
Yeah.
Right? Or I had time to practice my hand lettering, or, things like that. So it is about choices. The phone is such a big distraction. That's actually now become more of my vice. TV was gone, and then entered the phone. But it's constantly just checking in and just prioritizing your time as well.
Do you find if there's a period of time that goes by and you haven't had an outlet for creativity that you feel different?
I am so grouchy and grumpy and resentful, and it's really not nice. And I feel sorry for my children and my husband when that happens. I'm also introverted, so I do need like my own space, daily, like a few minutes just to defrag and recharge. But if I haven't been writing, I feel like I'm stuck. I feel like trapped. I feel like I'm just not being who I am.
Yeah. And do you think that's like, because I'm just wondering about myself, that there's times that I feel like those kinds of feelings, and I wonder whether that would be like a kind of a warning sign, like, hey, maybe there's an opportunity now to do something a little creative, and it can even be like cooking, right? Like where you cook a meal or something like that. I've noticed that when I go too long without cooking my own, like, you know, you can like slap a sandwich together, but there's like a process of cooking and creating something new. And when I haven't cooked at home for a while, like, you know, 4 or 5 days, then I start feeling that like same kind of. So I think it's probably there, and I'm not connecting it to creativity.
Yeah. Right? And what I love is that you're talking about the solution to a problem that so many people face. I mean, we've all had times when we feel like, what's wrong with me? And a lot of times, I used to do this myself. I would just dwell on the fact that I feel so bad right now. I just feel horrible. I feel awful. What's wrong with me? And I would never think about what I can do to get out of that funk. Mm-hmm. But being creative, like, what a great solution, right? Like drawing something or writing something.
Or scrapbooking.
Yeah. Even if it's like a letter to a friend or something.
Yeah.
You know, you could do, there's so many things.
You can write your grocery list with a crayon.
Oh.
Or a pencil crayon, and then draw, you know, like, that's all it takes sometimes to just literally add some color to your life, right?
Can you tell us about your books?
Mm-hmm. So I brought this book here. It's called What If? And 52 questions designed for an entire year.
I'm going to take it for a close-up.
Discovery.
Close-up. Right here. Hopefully it's not backwards on the screen.
Okay.
So you can see, so it's like these writing prompts, right?
Yeah, and there's space to write so that you can't say you don't have paper. I wanted to just create like a portable workbook for people. There's 52 questions, which is, you know, if you wanted to do one a week, you'd have enough for a whole year. And they all start with the words what if. Because I love the what if game. Because what if, like, holds so much potential. Because what follows it could be like, it could be life-changing, mind-blowing. It could create something amazing. Like,
it's all totally outside of the box. Outside of your regular
Can you read us a couple of like examples of what's in there?
Okay, so I'll just explain a bit of the types of what if questions I put. So all of the questions in here are designed to help you think about you, like who you are, who your authentic self is. So some of them are deep, some of them are just fun. Okay, so this one is, what if you found yourself with a canvas, paints, and paintbrushes? How would that make you feel, and what would you create? So here it's like, you know, here you have these tools, and everyone will react to them differently. Some people will be thrilled to have, you know, a canvas and paints, and some people will be a little bit apprehensive. But writing about that will teach you a bit about who you are, and you know, you might start out writing like, oh, I feel really intimidated because this one time when I was in grade 1, and it, you know, and you start to understand why you are the way you are. So
cool. So it's actually a tool for self-reflection as well, isn't it? Right.
And that's what writing is in general. If you just do like expressive writing, so journaling, it's a tool for self-reflection. It's a tool for healing. There's so many benefits, even physical health benefits.
What?
So patients with
Can you tell us about this?
Sure.
The scientist in me just came out. I'm like, ooh, let me take notes.
Patients with arthritis have claimed to have less stiffening of their joints after journaling for a certain amount of time. Wow. Respiratory illnesses have decreased, like symptoms will decrease through journaling, which I found really interesting because that medical intuitive that I went to, she had told me that your lungs are your organ for grief and sadness. Oh. So that made sense to me when I read that study, like years later, because if you're getting all that grief and sadness out, you know, maybe your lungs don't need to be shouting at you so much, right? So cool. Yeah, there's so many benefits to journaling.
And as an adult, I find, like for myself especially, when I was a kid, I remember doing a standardized test, and there was one portion for creativity, and they asked you to draw anything. And I couldn't think of anything to draw. I drew like a dog or something. And so I got the results back, and they said that I was in the bottom something percentile for creativity, which was so shocking to me because I'd been writing poems and drawing and painting, and I saw myself as a storyteller. And when I got that test result back, that completely shut down for me. And I just thought to myself, I'm not creative. There's just nothing I can do that's creative. And so from then on, until I was an adult and tried again, I believed that I just wasn't creative. And it takes a lot of courage sometimes to say, maybe what I've thought about myself all these years is not actually true.
Right.
I feel like there's probably a lot of people out there that think, well, you can write, but I can't because I'm not creative, And so just giving yourself that space to say, maybe, what if I'm not as dull
as boring?
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to be kind to yourself too, because as you're expressing yourself, even through journaling, sometimes things come out that you're like, oh, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
But it takes, I think, courage also to be kind to yourself and say, this is just me discovering me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
And the more you do it, the more you develop a relationship with it, so that you'll realize that your journal is like the only non-judgmental thing in your life, entity in your life, and you'll miss it if you stop doing it.
When I graduated from my master's program, my mom gave me her journal, the one that she kept when I was in high school, as I was leaving home for university. So my PhD was on girls leaving home for university and the mother-daughter dynamic. And so she gifted me her journal. And so in my dissertation, I actually have excerpts from her journal as she went through the process of me leaving home. And my supervisors were like, wow, right? Because there's one thing about the theory, and there's something very different about that personal experience of somebody going through the process of, and years later she didn't feel that way anymore, but it gave me a window into how she felt during that time that I was leaving home.
Yeah.
It was incredible. What an incredible gift. But the other side of me thinks, like, I don't actually want to read my old journals because I was so unhappy. I don't know if I want to keep, like, revisiting that unhappy version of myself. So how do you feel
and you
about
don't have
that?
to.
Yeah?
Yeah, there's
done,
a journal. I've kept most of my journals since I was 10.
You must have, like, a book.
I have a big box. But there's one that I actually got rid of because it was just a time in my life that was, I was just so different from who that person was that I didn't really want to hang on to that person anymore. So got rid of it. That would, like, the purpose isn't always to look back. However, you can look back and be like, wow, it's so awesome that I worked through that. It's so great that I'm, like, past that. So,
and there's many different ways to journal, like, because I'm a ruminator, right? I've told you that before. So if I journal and I start thinking about the negatives, I will just spiral down. So I journal only about the things that I'm really happy about. Like, I keep a gratitude journal, and I journal about myself, things I've discovered, and I love looking back on those because I know that when I look back, it's not going to make me feel bad. Like, it's going to be like, this was great about me at that time. And look how it's changed, right? And evolved and grown.
And some people journal, like, they use the journal as a purging space, right?
Like a burn book or something, right?
Burn book. Cool. So people can do it however they want.
Yeah.
Really,
right.
Whatever works for them.
What would you say has been your greatest self-discovery in the last few years as you've gone through this process?
oh my gosh, that is such a good question.
That's a journaling prompt, isn't it?
Yeah, that is
It's a writing prompt.
My greatest discovery was that who I am now, like, authentically, is actually so much who I was as a kid. Like, it's always, like, a theory that's been out there, and that's, why I encourage people to look at your childhood. But for me to actually discover that, because, I call myself social change ambassador or whatever, right? So that is actually who I was when I was 5, and that's who I am now when I'm 38. So it just feels like I'm on the right track, or like I feel very connected to myself as a child. Like, I almost feel like that child is still with me, and my best friend, and like someone I can hug and reach out to every once in a while. And that's been my greatest discovery, is that I am quite connected to that child.
And the way you're describing that child, would that kind of be like the truest version of yourself, right? Like, is that what you're talking about? Like the really aligned, true, that's who you really are underneath all those roles that I play. Sorry, I'm going to fix this. Sure. Okay, we're back. Does it cut?
I know it doesn't cut.
Oh, we just can't see ourselves.
We just can't.
Like, oh my gosh, we just like morphed into these like cosmic balls. I don't know what that was.
Of alignment.
Yeah, that's it. We've become so authentic. We're just back to our matter. Yeah. We're just matter now.
Man, it's been half an hour already.
Time flies.
Yes.
Is there something that you want people to know about creativity or about you? Like just that one kernel that you really want to make sure that people go away with?
Yeah. Today? I really want people to know that it is accessible to everybody. That creativity is your right. It is your birthright. It is who you are, actually. So really all of that potential, that limitlessness, all those solutions that the world is needing and waiting for, all that fun that you want to have is actually yours. It's your birthright. It's inside you. And it's just a matter of tapping into it one step at a time.
Taslim, are you doing anything? Because I know we're, sorry, I'm cutting you. Are you doing anything in the next couple of months around creativity? Is there any projects that you're working on that we could tell people about?
Yeah, actually, if you live in the Surrey White Rock area, I'm teaching classes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm teaching in January writing for self-discovery, which is,
awesome.
How to tap into who you are through writing. That starts in January. And then at the end of February, I'm teaching writing for legacy. So kind of like how your mom gave you parts of herself, you can give your family, your friends, and the world parts of you through writing that will change other people's lives.
And those are generally on Monday nights, right?
Those are Monday nights, through
Can
the
you find
Taslims Arts.
Information on your website?
Yes, it's on letmeoutcreative.com. I have a page called Writing Classes. That's where that is.
So I'll put the link below the video as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, Taslims.
This
was so much fun.
This was awesome.
I learned a lot about you. Like, I already know you, but I learned, like, this whole other part of how you became the you that I know today.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and now everybody else knows, too.
Yes. I feel very exposed.
Our viewers never judge.
Yeah.
They only love.
So if you want to connect with Taslim, letmeoutcreative.com. That's how to reach her. If you're interested and you're in the area, the writing classes sound. Is it big
amazing.
Classes, small classes?
No, I keep them small-ish, like maximum 10 people, because I like to
that intimate.
Personal
touch.
touch,
I like to work individually because everyone's journey is different. So
That's awesome.
Great.
And we are having our launch for our club. It's a Get Happy Club. So our launch is going to be on January 19th at 6:30 in Surrey. And we will give you more information on our websites and on our Facebook pages.
Yeah, so if you want to be in our club, you can.
You can, and it meets weekly. The kickoff is January 19th, and then every week thereafter.
And so what we're going to do to start is have it for people who are physically here, and then once we figure out technology, we'll include everybody
We'll do
else.
virtually.
Sorry, guys.
And it's basically just a place to feel happy and learn how to bring that happiness into the rest of your life throughout your week. So whenever you need a fix, just come on Thursday nights. We'll teach you how. We'll show you what to do. You'll feel good, and you'll be able to get through your week with a lot more confidence and a lot more fun.
Yeah, and hopefully you'll be laughing every single time.
Yes.
That's our goal.
Throughout. Yeah.
Or we'll be laughing.
Or we'll be laughing. Just look at us like we're crazy.
or we'll be laughing.
That's okay, too.
I'll be there. I'll be there.
Yay.
So share, subscribe, like, if you know people in your life who are kind of stuck or ready for that next level of creativity, please pass on this video. Connect with Taslim at Let Me Out Creative. And she has an incredible blog. Like, sign up for her blog newsletter because you will be so inspired every week with what she writes about.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being here, and we will see you next week.